Yeah, you can read it from back here, so that's good.
That's really good.
Yeah. I'll just start, and then exactly.
Right?
And then afterwards, we'll let it leap again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So John,
Yes.
is the idea one microphone for the moderator, one for the presenters?
No, I think we're going to just divide it between us.
Hi, Myra.
How are you? Oh, hi. Good to see you. It's good to see you. Yeah, nice to see you. Got your name right. Yeah, ready to see
Of our ancient history.
Right.
The two of you together.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking of all the posters that you made. Well, right, I know. Remember that? It was on the truck.
I guess I think back to that time, whatever. Okay. That's what I was.
Interpretations about what is what. And also when it comes right down. Carry them all around. This, I remember these. Gone with the Wind. This one has, I was just talking with her. Okay, I'll start with the deputy. Okay, thank you. Stop. And who did that?
Making you sign in, they want a Victoria. Oh, so you can get your check.
That's, yes. Hello,
Worked it out. Your associate John got back to me.
Now I got it backwards already.
My phone is so. Hi, Terry.
Hi, Louise.
Are these the only two? So let's talk about this. That's what I want. I want you to do creativity. Fred Schwartz. I'm the Executive Director of the History Center. So thank you so much for being here today. We knew we would get a good turnout, and we did. By the way, this is being taped by Channel 13. So Lauren Stefanelli is over here. So we just want you to be aware that it's being taped. Sorry about my I happen to be a board member for Historic Ithaca, so it helps to bridge and for us to do some joint programming. So we value your support. You support both organizations in multiple ways. Keep supporting those two fine organizations. Introduce John Lewis. John Lewis is the new Executive Director of Historic Ithaca. John has a PhD from University of Kentucky in American History, an MA from the University of Delaware, History with a graduate certificate in Museum Studies, and a BA from Rhodes College in History. But John would be the first to say that those credentials aren't what's important to him. He brings a lot of passion and experience to the organization, and we're very pleased to have John as the new Executive Director of Historic Ithaca. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to John Lewis. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Rod. I must say that it's with great joy and such a privilege that my first sort of public event is this wonderful panel of heroes of the Clinton House and other preservation activities. When I first moved to New York several years ago, because my wife wanted to come to Cornell, I never imagined myself living here. But when I came, I realized what a wonderful place this is. Not just because of the four seasons and you get to do winter sports, not just because of the beautiful environment, but when I was driving around, it just hit me one day. And in celebration, we have a number of activities that I would invite you to come see. One of the events that's not on this card is at the History Center on April 20th at 5:30.
And I think a monumental moment for her and for myself was this one, and it's just, it's the downtown City Hall, which was slated to come down for a parking lot. And we were standing there watching it being, and I love the way she took this in sort of a grievous, we should reverse the photography here, black and white, so that the sky is doomy. We said no. Clinton House is not going to be torn down for a miniature Holiday Inn. And that was the plan for it. And many other buildings were slated. Boardman House, the battle for Boardman House was already going on, which made things even more complicated. Two pretty important buildings at the same time. But to answer your question slightly more quickly, we came to Clinton House, we moved in, we all moved in, they weren't going to get us out of there. We took up a suite of rooms and we said, we're staying here, we're going to fix it up, and we're going to try to save it. So that was, we had no idea how, and we weren't 100% sure, how we're going to do this, but that was the game.
So we were secretary, if you want to call it, of Historic Ithaca in the fall of 1972. And at that time, we were working, the organization was working to save the Boardman House. Many of you remember that the whole back end of the Boardman House had been torn off. It was owned by the county. And so many people wonder why are there the two organizations, the Historical Society and Historic Ithaca. The reason is the county was supporting the Historical Society, so they couldn't get into it. But a separate organization could use its efforts, to tackle this problem and try to deal with the county to save the Boardman House. So when we heard that Saprostone wanted to sell the Clinton House, I think it was me, I don't know, but I said we have to buy it. The only way for me to handle, to preserve an old building is to own it. So we Not that I was thinking about it this morning, took a quarter of the mortgage, which was $85,000. When I walked through the Clinton House, I mean, you know, there was layers of rugs on the floor. The wallpaper was coming off. You know, the bathrooms were a mess. But I could see how that building could be changed into an office building. And so that's sort of where we began. I was responsible for I took on the responsibility of the fundraising. So I think you must, I would think that probably the Ellis Phillips Foundation. Ellis Phillips was the president of Ithaca College. Luckily, they were here in town when we were doing the Clinton House because they put, I'm sure from their foundation, over $100,000 into the project. The other large donor was the Gannett Foundation. They funded, again, I was asking them for like $50,000 or $75,000, and through Ray and others, here comes a check for $100,000. And that put up the elevator addition to the Clinton House. The rest of the time, I was successful with a couple of other foundations, but the money just kind of came. You know, we'd all sit out on the front porch, you know, at coffee hour in our bedraggled clothes, so people would feel sorry for us. But Mike Richardson worked for $6 an hour. Did we pay you about the same, Fred? Was that Vicki organized these wonderful lunches, these potluck lunches, which we would all take a break and enjoy. And so that gave us a real feeling of fellowship and brotherhood, or whatever you want to call it, you know, as we were working together.